Thank you. Okay, well, it is 1:01. Like to start the meeting. Do we need to do the members at all that are here or can we waive that? Does everyone know each other? Well, I guess Amber's new. I guess we shouldn't probably introduce.
I am. I'm Amber Papa, County Treasurer. I took over from Mary back in April.
Liz, property lister, Winnebago County.
Paul Schmidt, I'm the realtor on the committee.
Mike Seed, GIS manager at East Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission.
Eric Rasmussen, Emergency Management Director.
Adam Dorn, GIS Administrator. Jerry Bougie, County LIO and Planning Director.
And Natalie Strohmeyer, Register of Deeds. Is there anyone that's excused at all that you heard from?
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
No.
Okay, then I guess we're up to approving the minutes from the July 26th of 2022 meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
The second. If all, how's it go?
I just have one question. Wait a second, what minutes are you approving?
From
July 26th.
Last year's?
Yes.
Okay. On the members that are present. It shows Mike Zieg as via Zoom, but then down below. It shows all kinds of others present via Zoom. So that top part, members present. Looks to me like if. At least all of us on the bottom line, Mary and I and Mike, were all via Zoom. It's just a little confusing. I don't know that it makes a difference, but it's just a little confusing. Especially since the others present are all via Zoom. I assume. Just a comment.
Is there any way you would like us to try to make it better for the next set of minutes?
Well, for the next set of minutes, I guess list all the ones that are maybe via Zoom together.
Under the other present, put all the Zoom ones
yeah.
there?
Yeah. Or others present via Zoom and then.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding the minutes? And this is what is the statement stuff.
You just asked for all those in favor.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any, what's the? So I just,
Noes.
any no's? Hearing none, motion passed. Then I guess we're up to the council's review and discussion of it, which would be you, Jerry.
Sure, well, what we'll do is, I'll have Adam Dorn just go through the county GIS side of things. And then we can have, reports from the other committee members on anything they'd like to, report from their side of things. So I guess I'll turn it over to Adam at this point.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jerry. I'll go over some of the projects that we've done over the past year, the ones we're working on, and then a little bit about the revenue and funding side. There were two projects that we anticipated doing this year, but there were some challenges with the logistics, so we're deferring them. The first is PLSS remonumentation. Just logistically, we weren't able to do that this year. We anticipate doing that again in a future year, but not in 2024. The other is the LiDAR, that's the light detection and ranging elevation data collection. That was anticipated to be done this year. It's a large project that is coordinated with the state and federal government. And the feds have had some delays in their process, and it won't be approved until this December. And then our data needs to be reprocessed after that, and 1 month is not enough time for the vendor to be able to accomplish that. So we're budgeting for that again in 2024. That'll get new elevation data across the entire county. The next topic is related to next generation 911. I think we talked about this briefly last year, just a brief overview. It's more advanced technology to take advantage of computer networks to facilitate 911 service, rather than the traditional way that's done is physical wires being connected with landlines, and that technology is rapidly growing out of date, and the federal government changed the rules on how companies have to comply. And essentially that's going to be done all with GIS in the future. So we're actively working on that, and we're collaborating with Outagamie County and Calumet County heavily. Both because we share infrastructure as well as the shared area. The shared infrastructure with
How you doing?
with our counties in the urban area and the box cities to make sure there's effective communication between the different 911 centers. So in addition to the monthly coordination we do between the three counties, we're actively working on a vendor selection process to have them help convert our data to be compatible with this new state system. And as part of that, we also applied for a grant with the Department of Military Affairs at the state. And we're hoping to hear back about that grant by the end of this month. I'll talk a little bit more about the funding when I get to that piece. In addition to that project, we're in the process of georeferencing historic photos from 1981. And we'll be putting those online once they're processed. We also were able to acquire a Parcel County photo from a company named Nearmap. They fly the urban port of the county every year. I didn't know about that until this year, so we purchased that photography just for 2023 as a test. And Mike from East Central reprocessed that data, so it's available online. So right now, I'll just show you briefly. If you go to any of our viewers, it's not on by default. So by default, when you zoom in, you'll see the 2020 photo. If you go to the display options, you can turn on the 2023 air photo. But it does not cover the entire county. It mainly covers the urban areas out to 2020. So this is roughly the area that it covers. So that's being used both to help staff. We will be including it with dispatch, and it's on the public website for people to be able to utilize as well. We're also working to clean up survey documentation. I mentioned last year that we had it all online, and we're in the process of cleaning it. So if we go to survey access, this is where you access those surveys now. The process we're currently working on is to change how that content is delivered. Right now it's in OneDrive, and OneDrive's good for many things, but there are some substantial quirks with it. So we're we're in testing phase of moving into a different device for data download to make the data download a little bit more consistent. For large municipalities like the city of Oshkosh, I had to separate into separate folders because it all wouldn't even show up on the page. So we're gonna move that across, and we're in the process of redacting information that's not supposed to be in there, and consolidating surveys. So if there were 20 surveys in one document, we're extracting them all so they're in individual documents. And then, we'll be putting that content outline once we get that migration done. So far, the areas that have been cleaned up for those surveys from 1940 through 2000 cover the city of Appleton, city of Menasha, Neenah, Amro, village of Winneconne, parts of the town of Neenah, Finland, Oshkosh, and Winneconne. And we're starting to work on the city of Oshkosh. We were prioritizing the urban areas because essentially they weren't separated by section. They were all just dumped in one folder. And that is challenging to try to find where you're looking for.
For the stuff that you had to take out of there.
Yeah.
Has anyone called and complained that I can't find this, but it was there at one time?
We haven't put that content online yet.
Okay,
We occasionally get concerns from surveyors that looking for a document. And we'll look back at our historic documents to see if anything might have gotten missed. In most cases, it's not. But there have been a lot of, those documents have been handled a lot over the years, so they were originally in hard copy, then they went to microfiche, then they got scanned in microfiche. So sometimes there may have been a microfiche piece of film that was put in a different folder 20 years ago and got inappropriately put in
yeah,
a
I
different
guess
folder. If we,
where I'm, because sometimes when people see stuff out there, then you clean it up and it's not there.
we haven't gotten any concerns about the yet because that clean content
The
hasn't
next
been
one,
out there.
okay,
Most of the content that we're removing, anything that's related to a survey or surveyed pipes or those kind of things we're keeping in there, we're removing certified surveys. And occasionally there's correspondence that was included. Or in some cases, the original microfiche was imaged so poorly that you can't even read the content at all, or even discern any lines or titles or anything. And we're not including that content out there. So that the clean content is not out there yet. It will be hopefully in the next few months. And then that will allow us in the future to be able to create a GIS web app where you can just zoom in, click on the quarter section, click on the section, excuse me, and be able to go right to the folder. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier for surveyors to find the documentation that they're looking for.
Paul, can you see this?
Yeah,
Okay, I know, I mean, it's pretty small.
I can't read the print, but I can see the.
You can kind
I
of
can
follow
see the
along.
objects.
Otherwise, I was gonna suggest we could switch spots here and if you're,
Fine, fine.
he just
You-
wants to get away from me because
Thank
we
you.
sat at a meeting together all morning.
really, that's not the reason. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that you can still follow, because this is pretty
Thank
small up here, so, okay.
In addition to those projects, we're working on a lot of other stuff, mainly for internal departments. Some of those include converting culvert data for highway culverts with LWCD, Land and Water Conservation, and the Highway Department. We're just starting a project for parking lot data creation for all Winnebago County owned parking lots for highway. We are working with Human Services, their Child Protective Service Division, to create an app to help them analyze the distribution of their cases. I've worked with Adam Baris in the Parks Department to help him create a tool to do an asset inventory of all their parks for some work that they're doing with finance and a parks project. And then last year we worked with Eric on a temporary emergency temporary shelter app. So emergency management can maintain their data. Any questions on the projects before I talk about the revenue side?
No, except. I'm trying to follow the agenda.
Yeah.
And. I don't know where you were on that agenda. I don't see it.
Right now on the agenda, we're just discussing and reviewing what's going on with projects that are related to the land information plan, what we're currently going on. So that's number 3.
So that's the first part.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's the Winnebago County Land Information Program updates.
Yeah, okay, okay,
And there's, there's updates. For different parties that are involved with the land records program. And so Adam is given an update on the GIS. County GIS part of it.
yeah. Yeah, maybe that could be, you know, separated a little bit more.
Sure, sure.
Any other questions, Paul?
No,
So on the funding side. uh, We have Natalie seen a reduction in revenue with recordings, to say the
Sad to
least.
say.
So,
are
going
you
from,
going into the budget now, or?
I'm just highlighting some of the funding concerns, but then we'll talk about the budget detail when we get through the updates, unless you wanna do it
Yeah.
now, Jerry.
No, we'll just do the program updates and then we can talk about the budget.
Okay, I'll just wait to talk about the revenue until we get to that point then. So I'm done for the time being then.
So Liz, anything from your end?
Yes. So for 2023, there were 2 municipalities that did evaluations, Town of Clayton and on the timeline. And we just received the final approval from the Town of Clayton, which allowed us to file their statement of assessment with the Department of Revenue this morning. And the Town of the Kai's open book was September 27th, the board review was October 24th. So we contacted them and they're still making changes. We requested that they submit their role a week in advance of the October 24th board review date to allow us time to import and process the information and balance with the town assessor. The other municipalities, their statement of assessments have all been turned into the Department of Revenue in a more timely manner. Once you have evaluation, they're never going to be inside of that window that the state gives you to get those statement of assessment in. Then we worked with the software vendor on the XML 2022 tax rules. They were processed in a timely manner to meet the March 15th, 2023 due date. A good portion of the property lister functions have been moved from Windows to web. Along that same subject, we worked extensively with the software vendor regarding issues discovered after each system update. There's usually some things that they need to clean up. So we're working on that, and our goal is to move completely from Windows to web, but that's not yet happened as of yet. So. And that's all I have. Any questions?
What were those 2 townships?
Town of Clayton and Town of Conway.
Now, when they go under the general reassessment, do you see what their equalized value percentage is?
Not until the
see
end of
that?
the year when the state gives out that the state is the one that determines their
Yeah.
percentage for the fair market.
Yeah, but for 2023, the state's gotta do it prior to the tax bills being sent out.
Mhm.
So that should,
And usually I don't receive those until like, say, November, November, somewhere in there.
okay,
So I don't have anything yet done.
Okay. okay, so, and so you don't know at what percent these 2 townships are,
No.
and, okay,
But most likely they will definitely be over 100%.
yeah, okay.
So. But I can contact you as soon as I have them.
I'll see it
Okay,
on tax bills.
okay.
You like to?
Sure. So this is the 3rd year that we've offered online payments through T-Tech, and this year we're already over 2 million in online payments. Last year we were at 1.8 million, so we're already increasing. We still have 3 months to go, so that's a nice increase. We completed our annual lottery and gaming credit audit for all 21 municipalities for both additions and removals. June 8th, we sent out reminder notices for second installments, and collection went very well. We only had 3 million be turned over for delinquencies, so that was very good. We're at about 1.16% of delinquent homeowners. All of our functions have been moved from the thick client to web. And then our module for the additional fees is going very well. We're using it for our foreclosure action. And we seem to have a better rate in collecting the right amount upfront with it being online versus having to have them call in. And then earlier this year, we also went live with text and email notification features for owners to be notified by text or email when tax bills are generated, when second installments are due, and then when tax payments are posted, and if a parcel would fall delinquent. So I'm eager to see the response with that. Questions?
Were you in the treasurer's department before you?
Yep, I've been there
Mary.
for 9 years.
Okay. Did Mary retire?
Yep,
Okay.
April 3rd.
Okay.
She's enjoying time with her granddaughter.
Anyone else have any questions for Amber? Anyone else would like to give a report?
And we have Daryl,
Yep.
Daryl Lehman from Martinson and Isley, by the way, everyone. Welcome, Daryl. I wanted to.
No one else has reports? Okay. In the Register of Deeds, of course, as everyone can see that the recordings are slow, and I expect them to be slow next year as long as the interest rates stay high.
Gonna surprise you.
They're gonna drop? Or they're gonna stay high?
Well, you're gonna have more recordings than what you think you're gonna.
I'm hoping. That's what I put in my budget, that it's gonna go the other way, but I have to still see it because our numbers are bad. I actually hated doing my budget this year. It wasn't a pretty scene. Every time I went to adjust it, it went the wrong way.
Yeah, I know.
It was not a good scene. But I did pass the committee last night with my budget, so I just have the county board to go. So hopefully it'll continue passing through.
Yeah.
But the other project we've been working on is 3 of my employees, or myself and 2 others, have been working on their Pintegrity project, trying to verify all the tax parcel numbers. I can literally say that last night I finished my portion. My goal was the end of October, but
Very good.
Chris is almost done with his, and Gail has 2 municipalities, 2 townships to go yet. So we're all hoping to get those done by the end of October to start working on converting it over. And then my question basically was, and it might be just Liz, but I'll ask everyone, what's the easiest way to take a parent tax parcel number that's been split or changed and get the data back to the Register of Deeds office? And is it on like a weekly basis, quarter basis? Is it depending on the municipalities?
Well, you're different than what we now serve, you know, because the people that we now serve, they just are in a file and it's annually. They get all their information. So I don't think you're gonna wanna wait and get everything once a year.
No, I would prefer it a lot sooner than
Yeah.
that, but that's,
So we'll kind of work that out maybe and just see, you know, how often. I mean, I suppose we could do it as we're processing those, that we can get you, you know, the parent information and the children of it. We can direct you to the county website because it's all there historically. So, but you and I can discuss. that.
okay, yeah, I just, the more I can do it on a daily basis or weekly basis would make it easier all the way around with adjusting our stuff, but we haven't quite got to that point, but I know it'll be coming in the next month or month and a half, and that's right when you're gonna get busy. So I was just trying to see if we could brainstorm, or if anyone else had any other suggestions that might make it easier.
And that's only gonna be for the stuff that is in T-Tech.
Yeah.
So that won't be for Oshkosh.
Well, no, it'll have to be Oshkosh and Appleton and the other ones too, which I'll have to
But
contact them.
Liz's stuff won't provide you any information for that.
No, I'll have to contact those municipalities as to how they can get me the information too.
And there will be periods when you wouldn't get that information, like let's say from January to April, May. There isn't any information that we send out with splits because we're working on, like, for the next year.
Because you're
So-
finishing off the previous
Because
year.
we're getting, yes, we're working on, like, in 2023, from January to April, May, we were working on 2023's information, so those splits we get. But any splits that come in, that's recorded in 2023 for 2024, those have to sit and wait until we're done with those work rolls. So then we pick back up that information again, like in May, June, July, and then continue on. So there will be a little lag. And then when we're working on the tax bills and that, October, November, December, sometimes, it depends on how much time we've got to do those, like the CSMs and the plats and whatever. But as soon as we get it done, I think it would probably be in everybody's best interest that we would just get that information to you, that you'd have it immediately.
That would be greatly appreciated if it could be that way. And that's where I didn't know the timing on how it could be. But the longer it sits for us, then like when you talk about getting it like in the summer months, that's our busy time period to sit there and go put the back data in. But I do understand that I can't ask you to do that when you're finishing off the previous stuff. So
Yeah, because the software doesn't support that. I mean, they don't allow you to pick a year. That's not how this whole software works. It's all in, all out sort of a thing, so.
You know, it might be worthwhile to have a conversation with IT and or T-Tech about that, just to see if there's ways that can be streamlined, if not right away, long term. Because you're effectively wanting to know this one parcel went to these 5 parcels.
well, then we have to go in our system and change
it.
change it, yeah.
That part, I don't think could probably be automated very easily, but the flags for that other stuff may be able to do that, because IT's worked with us a little bit with one of the permitting programs that we have to be able to flag some of those things to identify the children parcels. I don't know for sure, but it might be worth having a conversation with them about that, just to see if there's a way to say, give me a screen that shows me all the parcels that retired and the parcels that correspond to those parcels.
Yeah,
So it'd be a starting place.
because I can even tell with my spreadsheet that I have, it's an old, well, a
Right.
year out because we've been working on it for a year. And on the GIS system, there are like children that are out there already, and my spreadsheet still doesn't have that.
Right.
So I got a whole year's worth of cleanup to do once we actually get it up and
Yeah.
going, but I still say it'll be nice once we get to that work, but it's a lot of cleanup work, and then
Yeah.
there's still a lot of cleanup to go with it. So I'm hoping Paul's right that we're gonna have more recordings next year. I've got most of my staff now trained to rotate. So everyone will be able to just jump in where needed. It's a long time coming, and there are always still, things to learn, because not everything comes up right away when you're training. But, I think it'll make it easier if someone's missing or absent for some reason, that we can fill in more smoothly on that end of it. Other than that, I really don't have much else going on. So I guess we're up to the budget part, unless you have
Sure.
something for your office that you wanna add on?
Not at this point, we'll have Adam, start off, to kind of go through the budget stuff here. And,
Sure.
I'll let you describe that, Adam.
Sure, we'll start with the bottom. We'll talk about some of that funding stuff, because that's some of the more substantive changes. So for grants, typically what we've been getting is land records grants, and those are directly related to recording fees. So a portion of the money that is not retained locally goes to the state, and they divvy it up and send it back to us if we meet the criteria that we're having these meetings, having regular progress in our land records plan. But because the recording fees have gone down, the grants go down. So last year, or this year, 2023, it was 51,000. For next year, they're anticipating it being 11,000. So that kind of gives you the idea of how much the recording fees have gone down.
I think that's a little drastic. I mean, but
They were pumping them up because they had money at the state from the stuff that happened during COVID, so they were getting that money out, and now they're being conservative in their estimates going forward.
Yeah, so we do anticipate that hopefully beyond next year that they'll,
go back up.
Yeah.
jumping that back up again, but.
Yeah, now does that have to do with that $8? Is this a part of that $8?
No,
No.
it's separate than that. The $8 is the stuff we retain.
The $8, Paul, is every time someone comes in to record a document in Natalie's office, the Register of Deeds office. This fund or this account receives $8 of that $30.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the grant money here that Adam's talking about is they're separate state grants to help us,
Okay.
to supplement the budget some more. So these are separate state grants,
Okay,
but they're based on, because some of the $30 recording fee, $7 goes to the state, okay? And that
I'm
that
familiar
money
with that.
turned around and gets granted back out again, and they don't, because the number of recordings are down. They're anticipating less grants for us next year.
But I don't know what these grants come from. They're just.
The
what
Department
state grants.
of Administration.
Yeah.
Is the source of the Department of Administration is the one that oversees the land records modernization program.
Okay,
And they're the ones that make the determination what the grant amount should be based on the amount that they have. There's more complicated formulas if you're in a small county that doesn't have a lot of recordings. You can get a little bit more money than we typically get. But there's this base amount that we get, and that fluctuates, that they reevaluate it based on how much revenue is coming in. There were conversations about whether the state should be smoothing that out a little bit more than that much of a dramatic jump. And the person from the state that works on that fairly tactfully said his preference is to get that money in the hands of local government so they can use it to make progress in land records rather than retaining it in the state to smooth it out, for fear that it might be utilized other ways.
yeah.
So the answer is just keep my office busy and then we won't have any issues.
See the idea?
Easier said than done.
The other more minor element in revenue is interest. Several years ago, we never really tracked that because it wasn't that substantial, but any money, this is a non-lapsing fund, so any money we don't spend in 1 year goes into a reserve. And that helps us to be able to pay for things that are larger, like aerial photography or LiDAR, or other one-time projects. But because we do have a decent reserve and the interest rates are high, we're getting more interest. So this year we anticipated about $3,000. Next year, we're anticipating about $9,000 in interest. So that is, when you compare what the grant amount is to the anticipated interest, that's a more substantial percentage than it used to be.
So
Yeah.
that interest is based on that reserve amount
Yes.
there at the bottom, that
Yes.
5.25.
It's
Okay.
not all simple savings. I've talked to finance about it. Some of it's invested, some of it's in more of a savings, and we didn't necessarily budget for the one that's not just simple savings, because it's way harder to anticipate whether that's going up or down. We just kept that portion to zero, so that.
So
that
when you
part's
say
much-
you're talking about Winnebago County?
Yes.
Winnebago County's finance department,
Correct,
okay.
yes. Certainly not me. And then the last portion, which we've never done before, is that next generation 911 that I talked about earlier. The state does have grants out there for that. We did apply for a grant and we hope to hear about that grant by the end of October. It's a fairly favorable grant that is. We only have to match 5%. So they're paying 95% of the cost for that work. Of course, if we meet all the grant criteria and other details, but it's hard to pass up a grant opportunity that's gonna pay for something that we're wanting to move forward on. You don't see 95% grants like that very frequently, at least I haven't. So we are applying for that. We're hopeful the amount of money that the state has allocated for that went up between the time that they announced the grant and when the grant application was due. So we think essentially Outagamie County, Calumet County, and Winnebago County all submitted. We submitted independently, but basically with the same plan that we're gonna be doing in this collaborative project. So we think those things put us at a competitive advantage against other parts of the state. And we're hopeful that we'll be able to get the grant.
You said you'll hear by the end of the month, hopefully.
That's what they told me in the meeting yesterday. They said you'll hear by October, which I anticipated meeting at the beginning of October. What they meant is sometime in October, so. Yes, by the end of the month.
And I guess my question is, because it's in here that we're expecting that money. Worst case scenario, what happens?
We have some contingencies, so we did budget for some of that work to be accomplished this year. That's one of the factors that went into us deferring some of those projects, because we thought when we put out an RFP with Outagamie and Calumet, and we anticipated the cost being high. It was way lower than we expected, which is good.
It's unusual. Yes.
And then after we got all the information, we determined that it made more sense to defer the start of the project until December 1st, so we can include that with this grant. So we have money budgeted this year to accomplish some of that, which some of the work's gonna start December 1st. If we do not get the grant, there's 2 phases to the project. We will not do the second phase. And we'll do that at some point in the future. We'll only do the first phase and then request a budget transfer from this year's budget into next year's budget to accomplish that work.
But we fully anticipate
Yeah.
being awarded this grant. I mean,
There's a companion grant that the sheriff's department also applied with. So we're closely coordinating these activities with the sheriff's department, Laura Vindola. So we anticipate getting the grant, but we do have some contingencies in case we don't. We will not be able to accomplish the entire scope of the work without the grant. We would just do phase 1 and defer some of the more data cleaning and scrubbing activities to a future grant cycle, most likely. Any questions on the revenue side?
Well, then I guess that the recording fees, that's the $15 that we keep on a recording. Is that correct?
No,
Is that-
no.
Is that where that comes from?
That's this recording fee that you have in here is $8, correct? It's the $8.
That's the $8.
Yeah,
yeah. And again, there's $30 total.
Yeah, yeah.
Eight comes here,
That's the-
7 goes to the state. And then the other 15
Registered deeds.
goes directly into registered deeds
Ah,
for things they do. You know, that are above and beyond this program, this land records program.
So
yeah, I'm
sorry.
familiar with that, but I just don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah, gotcha.
So a lot of the budget is fairly similar to last year. We reduced several items because of the reduction in revenue. So one of the things that went up is the general small equipment technology. All 3 of the primary GIS workstations haven't been replaced for going on 5 years, which is fairly long for that type of workstation. I was not aware of how much those things have gone up in cost. They're quite expensive now compared to what they used to be, so that's the reason for the increase. We are reducing the section corners, because we're not doing remonumentation or monument maintenance next year. And we have a large stock of supplies for surveyors if they find issues that need to be corrected. The software cost is a little bit lower because we are not paying for the initial implementation of the LRS email and text messaging notification components. Professional services, the NG911 work that's related to the grant. The LiDAR work is the processing of that elevation data, so we can make local use of it. The comprehensive plan cost is for a consultant to assist with the initial phases of the comprehensive plan. If you have questions about that, Jerry can talk more about that. And then there was a slight increase to the GIS distribution, which helps offset the GIS operations cost in the GIS division of the planning and zoning department. Does anybody have any question about those projects or other questions in general?
I guess I'm questioning the offset.
Yeah.
Who determines that amount?
Jerry and county
Yeah,
executive.
that's a number I'll offer to John. And then the county executive, and it's really John's call, how much he wants to offset the costs in the GIS cost center itself, which is levy money. And this is the number he settled on for this year.
So you came in with a different amount and this is what he settled on?
No, no, this is the number I had offered to him. And this is the number that he agreed on. So that's,
I'm just looking at the increase from one year to the next year.
Yeah.
As if he's gonna keep doing that trend going upward, it's gonna take away from
yeah,
other projects.
I've had conversations with John about it, and he does have the flexibility to either increase or decrease that amount. It's, done with caution, as you indicate. There is only so much. I mean, in the overall scheme of things, what he does is, one, just scroll all the way down, Adam.
Sure.
Looks at the overall net reserve in the fund balance in this account, with that $524,000. So he's aware of that number. And utilizes some of that for the offset levy dollars. So so it's done with caution. I mean, it's in the longer past, way before John is even county executive and before I was even in this role, that offset was, there were years where that offset was $100,000. It was that high. Over the years, when I've been involved, I've been trying to nudge that number down. But as of late, because of, the number of, the lack of recordings coming up here and what we've been experiencing, that John is nudging that number back up again. So that's, in the overall scheme of things, I don't think it's that dramatic. It was 25 last year, I believe it was 25 the year before. Yeah, and I think the year before that, it might have been 15. But it's been, been nudging up. So it's done with caution. But this is the number that was settled on for this year, or for 2024. Excuse me.
Does anyone have any other questions regarding the budget?
Jerry, as long as you're talking,
Yes.
the budget with the county exec is all changed. What, I think this year or last year. And, so. I don't, yeah, I don't follow these pages here. Not totally. But I noticed there's a column there that says 2024 executive.
Yes,
So that tells me that the county exec is already seeing this.
yes,
And you made your request and
yes,
he basically agrees with it or can change it. So the only thing now is it's subject to approval of the county board.
that is correct.
And
Yeah.
when is that budget meeting? Do you know?
Oh, that'll
Used to
be
be So last weekend,
31st.
Yeah,
Of
I think of
October
October,
always.
first week of November.
yeah,
Those
it's,
days.
I think it begins on. Is Monday, October 30th?
Yep.
So it'll be Monday, October 30th is when it starts, but
Okay,
you know,
So
by the
that's
time we
still
get
the
around to
same.
this, it'll be the 31st or the 1st of. November.
okay,
So yeah, that very last couple of days of October ball. Or first couple of days in November,
okay,
that's when the county board. Reviews and,
We used to meet before the county exec, now we meet after.
right,
right,
right.
But if we all of a sudden we see something in here that we forgot about as they're talking to the individual departments, how do you get it in after the fact?
we'd have to suggest it and would have to be an amendment.
Yeah.
By
At
the,
the end of the, that's the part I don't care for.
yeah. And that would go with. Any department's budget,
Because, I mean, if, I'll just use my life cycle thing in here, all of a sudden you say, well, we can't afford to pay that much or
Mhm.
change it.
right,
I'm just grabbing mine only because I want to speak for myself. And all of a sudden you say I have to throw it back in my budget. Well, I'm already past my budget to throw it back in.
Mhm.
If we would have been in that circumstances, Jerry and I looked over the details, we would have been talking to you. In the summer about that before we submitted the budget.
But yeah,
yeah, I mean.
it's
you
just
know,
like, I wouldn't be able to find room in my budget for that.
Right.
So,
Yeah, so.
but I'm just saying, if, I'm just using mine, but if it was one of those projects, you know, it's like,
Mhm.
you'd have to either
No, this
postpone
is-
it or.
This is the county executive's budget.
Paul, do you have anything else?
Well, why are we giving these detailed sheets? I mean, what,
Well, it's
I can't,
it's primarily for informational purposes,
yeah,
you-
but it's not.
I mean, the summary. Well, go ahead,
Well, that's just the way that our accounting system
yeah,
puts everything in. So we as department heads are required to put everything in by line items. Some of the descriptions with the line items are not really intuitive for
Yeah,
somebody
it's
in the
not
general public to look at and take them.
yeah,
Um,
it's really not,
I mean, I have a cheat sheet from my office that says, okay, if I need to fix something on my sirens, it comes out of this account. Because it doesn't, the titles on them don't
Yeah.
always make the most sense.
I mean, that's-
Compared to what they really are,
Right,
but that's the system, the software system that we're required to use for our budgeting.
and Paul, that's why we do this graphic here. To sort of better lay out what each of those line items. Are really for, so. You know, and this doesn't go in the county board
No,
packet, this is just for this group to use to help you understand. What that other sheet with all the line items means. It's there just as backup information in case you want to get down into the weeds on more detail, but. But that's the stuff that goes to county board, and that's what the county board sees.
okay,
I think though, if you wanna compare it, if you just look at the account numbers. So there's account numbers off to the left. And then if you just go to the sheet and go to the account numbers, which are listed here. And those can line up.
Yeah.
So
Oh. Okay. Um. Then why would the executive approve a negative balance for land records?
There's a over $500,000 reserve,
Yeah,
and we're trying to use some of that reserve to make progress of things that would benefit.
okay,
For the
so
county.
where that reserve is
It's a non-lapsing budget, so
by
if,
finance, the finance
Yes.
department?
Mhm.
They keep track of that, so
Yes,
at year end, will they transfer
yes,
funds out of there to cover the?
if we go over, in this
Does that
case,
go then into the general?
no. It's segregated into a separate fund specifically only for land records.
yeah, this is, yes. So, so in the end, I mean, you know, these dollars, the recording fees that go in here to fund this budget never gets lost from the standpoint of its purpose. Its purpose is to essentially modernize land records in the county. Whether that's systems or information for the public, and so forth. So it's designed to modernize land records, to maintain land records in the county. And it's designated specifically for that purpose. And that money does not get lost. That's why it's a
It
separate,
doesn't go back into the general fund.
right,
Right.
right.
Okay,
And the thing that you're asking about is how do you strike the balance of how much money do you take out of the reserve? And that's the conversation Jerry and I have, and as other departments request things like software costs or additional modules, that's the stuff that we have to try to wrestle with. And the conversations we had are focused on, we want to put those dollars to use. However, you might have more insight about the economy than we or Natalie have. But we also don't want to spend that reserve down and then all of a sudden have this be the high of recordings for the next 5 years and then have no money to sustain tax collection and administration of T-Tax software for the next few years. So we're trying to use some of that reserve money to make progress on county priorities to help citizens while having enough in reserve. So if recordings get worse, not better,
yeah,
we're not behind an 8 ball.
Yeah, and I'll give an example. And it happened back in that what do they call it, the Great Recession back in 2009.
yeah,
We our reserve fund, we actually had to get a budget transfer to help support this account because our reserve fund was gone. Literally gone, and now we've built it back to over $500,000 since 2009, because we had a lot of good years of recording since then. As you know, Natalie can
We're gonna go back there.
someday.
Give me another year.
Someday. So yeah, I mean, that's it in a nutshell. So that's the budget. So essentially, we are utilizing for 2024, as you'll see down the right-hand corner, about a little over $134,000 of the reserve fund, which is currently $524,000. So in theory, the reserve fund will drop to about a little less than $400,000. And that assumes we spend every nickel that is described in the budget, which typically we don't. So probably for looking at the end of next year, end of 2024, where our reserve fund should be over $400,000.
is there some kind of a guideline that says it should be X% of the budget or?
I think there's some basic accounting principles on that. A lot of it depends on what it is, you know. The current reserve fund is quite high, and that's why we're eating into it. We're proposing to eat into it.
We're
Because-
actually lucky in this county to have
Yeah.
a reserve fund.
Yeah,
There's counties that don't have it,
yeah,
and they're
there's,
hurting.
yes,
Especially the ones that are paying 100% of their staff out of
Yeah.
the fund.
yeah. So I'm not aware, Paul, exactly what the rule of thumb is for reserve funds. You know, I let our finance department handle that. I let our county executive really determine how high or low this reserve fund goes. In the end, that's his call. But
Sometimes it also depends if you have to delay a project or
yeah,
move a project up as to where
Right.
that reserve is gonna go to.
yeah, I mean, it
It's
really,
challenging.
it really depends. Now, if this thing was down to about $100,000, I'd start to get a little nervous. Because again, it's this particular budget and account is really based on recording fees, which it really sort of relates to the economy, and if the economy starts. I went through it back in 2009 and we had nothing left in this thing. So yeah, it concerns me if it gets too low, but, and those are the conversations we have with our county executive, as we move ahead, but, it's really an economy-based, account here, it's really, kind of at the mercy of, how many recordings are going on and, so,
But Paul, you mentioned that you're thinking that I'm gonna get more recordings so that this is actually gonna look better than what it
Well,
is, or?
I think we're gonna see, at least as good a year as what this year is next year, and I think it's gonna be better.
Well,
That's what I'm thinking.
I'm not wanna bring politics in the matter, but usually just before an election, the interest rates go down,
But
which
they're,
will get all the refinancing and bring up the recordings.
right, but well, you won't get the refinancing, because the rates aren't gonna go that low. But, they're kind of thinking they'll be in the 5 percentile, range. And, yeah, you're right, once it's a big election year, that, I call it, they create an artificial market, so.
Yeah.
And, so it's supposed to be a good year for real estate, is what they're thinking next year. So that's just a part of the reporting, so that you have.
are the, just speaking strictly with the residential side of things, I mean, are you seeing, that there's going to be a good enough supply of homes for sale, Paul, or, because right now, I think that's the problem, even though the interest rates are up. There's just not enough homes for sale right now that, it's really a seller's market. There's, the folks out there looking for homes there's just a lot of folks looking for homes, but there's just not a lot out there. And I think that's, kind of puts a damper on things as far as, the number of transactions. I mean, at least currently, I mean, I don't know what it looks like a year from now, but I don't know.
That's what keeps the prices up.
Yeah, oh, sure.
It's the shortage of inventory. But I am right now, I am seeing more listings coming in.
Yeah,
Yeah, coming up on the market. So that might curb some of that.
yeah,
But yeah, the interest rates right now are like 7.5%.
Yeah,
And so even if they get down to 5, people they're not gonna refi on that unless they have to for some reason.
mm,
Those low 3%.
No, but
Dates.
there's a lot that are
I
at
think
6
they're
and
wrong.
7 this last year that,
This year, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, those should be looking at refining, yeah.
have you seen that from the time it goes on to the market, when they actually have a accepted offer, it's going more than 3 days to a week?
Yeah, it's extending out a little bit further, yeah. Mhm. And it depends on too, the past several years up until now, when the interest rates went so high. Anything you put on the market. You almost got a bonus for it. As to what we were asking.
mhm.
For the list price. That's not the case right now. Right now, it's more selective. If you put on that 3-bedroom, 2-bath ranch. And in the 250 to 350 range, boom, they're gonna descend on it. But if you just put up, the average $136,000 home and it needs some work on it and stuff. They're not jumping on that.
Mhm.
So
They were jumping, but yeah.
they were back
Yeah.
then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, I'm just looking at the list price versus what would come in, and the average was increasing between 15,000 to 40,000 above asking price during the summer here,
Oh, yeah,
without blinking an eye.
oh, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I just know with my son, we put an offer in over 18,000 with no contingencies and a cash offer and
get it.
didn't get it.
No.
And so,
So that helps with the transfer fee also.
yes. That helps my office keep my budget halfway reasonable. So, okay,
That helps with the taxes too, because the assessments are gonna go up.
Yeah, that's for sure.
okay, do we have any other questions or, well, we can't really make a change to it because the county exec already looked at it, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
to be clear as to what you can change, you can change within a category, meaning, for instance, data processing, because there's 3 different items. If for some reason one of those 3 items, or if you wanted to add a 4th item, just for an example, this is merely an example. You'd have to adjust the numbers for the other items that are already in there. But the bottom line budget for that line item, unless there's a change by the county board itself, that item, the amount shown is the amount shown, and that's the amount the county executive is recommending to the county board.
So when do you go in front of the committee to present it to your committee?
Friday, this
So,
Friday.
Worst case scenario, not that I want to change anything, but just for future, but it could change by next year. Is if we found something that we really, really wanted to put
It's-
in here,
It's not even up to the committee.
it's not, but
It's not up to the committee.
it's not, no, they just have to listen to you, but
Yeah.
they could sit there and put a change through when it comes time.
Yeah,
at
they
the
could
end
make
to help support you.
that is correct. You are correct in that. Because they're, one of those 5 county board supervisors on the planning and zoning committee could submit a resolution to amend the county board budget, at county board time to say, we want to change the land records, modernization account. X amount for this line item for this purpose. Yes. That would be the process.
That would be the process, okay.
With that said, if anybody has concerns about anything. We can talk about it, you could communicate that to us outside of the committee, and we could look at it both for next year's budget or. Like if Mary brought up in the past, wanting to see sale information, well, I was able to accomplish that without any cost at all, it just took a little bit of time. So if you do have concerns, we can still hear those and receive them, it's just, if they're concerns that cost $200,000. It'll have to go through the county court, like
Yeah,
Jerry was talking about.
It's just a change of the way we've done stuff
Yeah.
in the past.
yes. Yes,
So I guess then we would need a motion to accept it as the county exec has
proposed.
proposed.
What's up?
I just need a motion. I can't make it because I'm heading it up.
We don't make a vote on it. right?
Well,
Oh, we have to-
you know, basically, this committee is
Advisory.
it's advisory, it's a
is.
advisory recommendation. You're basically supporting the under state statute, it's strictly advisory.
Okay.
So. Well, I will make a motion to approve and recommend to the county the 2024 land records modernization budget as proposed. Is that too many proposed?
And I would second that, and then I have a question.
Okay,
Okay, any questions?
Yeah, with the new, pay schedules that are out, where are we at here on this line item budget? I don't
this,
quite, I don't
there's,
quite see us in there for that
Yeah.
$500 a month now or something.
That's a good one, Paul.
Can I amend that?
You can
Yeah.
try.
Yeah. Yeah.
for sure. The motion.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. Any other discussion regarding this? Okay, then if all approved, say aye. Disapprove, say no. Motion carried as read. Do we have any other discussion we need to do before we adjourn? No.
Yeah,
Anyone would like to make a motion to adjourn?
Move.
second.
All in favor?
All right.
Motion carried. And it is 2:10.
Well, I